This build is particularly effective against tankier bosses, especially bosses that are resistant to skill power. For this build we'll be focusing on Cold Fury and Cryo Round. Cryo Round basically applies 9 stacks whenever you use it to the enemy, and these stacks inflict cryo, which makes the enemies take 50% more damage when you shoot them. But whenever you deal damage to the enemy, it loses 1 stack of cryo, which means you can only shoot 9 bullets. And with Cold Fury, you become immune to knockdowns, and it increases her firearm critical hit damage and skill critical hit damage by 20% each. Rolling or grappling decreases the Cold Fury stacks by 3 each time you roll or grapple. You gain Cold Fury stacks every second up to the max of 16 stacks, and it increases your skill critical hit rate and firearm critical hit rate by 2.5 per stack, but every stack reduces the movement speed by 2.5%. With the reduced speed, we're able to take advantage of the inversion reinforcement buff, which is Arche Pacemaker. When movement speed is 300 or less, it grants Arche Pacemaker, and it decreases skill cost by 25%. This is what makes the build viable right now. It allows you to slot in other mods other than recovery and skill cost to have a constant up on your third ability, Cold Fury. I also want to mention that Arche Pacemaker can be used on every weapon. If I select Greg's, you can see the movement speed is 540, and when I have max stacks, it's only 324, and this is for every weapon. So Enduring Leg, say I have 270, and for Piercing Light I have 240. But for Greg's, if you want the movement speed to be below 300, you can use the mod called Special Rounds Compulsive. This decreases your movement speed, allowing you to actually proc Arche Pacemaker. So with Rounds Compulsive on, and I use my third, you can see the movement speed going down, and it goes all the way down to 216. Just something I thought I would mention. So with the first ability, we can stack 9 cryo stacks every 3 seconds, and since we're shooting constantly, we're removing these 9 stacks instantly, which means we want to be able to spam the first ability. To do that, we have skill cooldown from the Mo Fingers and skill cooldown from MP Conversion. That allows us to spam the ability more frequently. You can also get skill cooldown on the Reactor, and for your third, Cold Fury, you can have this up constantly and recover MP faster than using this ability. The way you do this is from skill cost reduction, from Strong Mentality, skill cost reduction from Maximize Conservation. That allows the skill cost to be very low. You can then also get skill cost on the Reactor along with your skill cooldown, and then you want MP Recovery. This allows your MP to recover faster than the continuous MP cost interval, which is 4.5 per second. In addition to the MP recovery, you want MP recovery on your components. Components you want to use is obviously the Annihilation set, as this gives plus 26% firearm attack depending on how much HP you've lost, so 50% or lower. The lower your HP, the more damage you'll be dealing. This doesn't mean that you have to be 50%. 50% is the bare minimum. You have to be extremely low to gain the total 26%. As for the actual stats on the components, you want MP recovery out of combat and max HP, max MP and MP recovery in combat, defense and MP recovery modifier, and the processor can be max shield and shield recovery modifier. The main ones you want is MP recovery out of combat, max MP and MP recovery in combat, and then MP recovery modifier. The rest are just good additions you can add to the build to min-max it. I'll most likely go farm Devourer to gain better components, but with all that MP recovery and skill cost, we're able to use our third. You notice that we get the Arche Pacemaker buff, which allows the skill cost of minus 25%, and you can see at the bottom that our MP does not go down. The only time your MP does go down is when you use your first, but even when you use your first, you gain your MP back instantly. So you can just spam your first and have your third up constantly. Now with the 9 stacks, obviously you lose a stack per shot you do, but since you're spamming the first, you gain the stacks back instantly. And then the other mods that you want is for survivability and damage, so shot focus for the firearm attack, and walk a tightrope for firearm attack, increased HP for survivability and increased defense for survivability, and enlightenment you don't really need, I'm just using it as a placeholder right now, but ideally you'd probably want to be more tanky, so you take more max HP, like stem accelerant or HP amplification, whichever one you prefer. But personally what I would do is take off enlightenment and add some more HP, but I would have to level my character again. Now obviously this build is more orientated towards your weapons, so you'll also need to build up some weapons. Right now I'm testing between a couple weapons. I spent the time maxing out every single weapon so I could go through and test them all to see which ones are worthwhile. Right now the ones I'm using on Hailey are Enduring Legacy, Greg's Reverse to Fate, and Piercing Light. I'm still testing stuff with my Enduring Legacy. This is what I've currently got so far, but I was probably going to switch the weak point sight and have aiming to weak point damages for some more fire attack, as this weapon's ultimate ability increases firearm attack on hitting a burned enemy, and it also applies the quenching buff. This quenching buff has a duration of 0.4 seconds, a max stacks of 50, and it reduces the fire resistance on an enemy by 0.8% per stack, which means you can get minus 40% from all the stacks. And then on hitting an enemy inflicted with burn, you get firearm attack plus 11%. I'm still testing between which ones I actually want to use. Weak point damage is usually very good, so that's why I wanted to test it first. I want to test between these two weak points and these two fire attacks to see which one I would deal the most damage with. And then for my last mod, I would probably take rounds per magazine so that I can shoot more bullets. Or maybe I would try to counter the reload time modifier from a concentration priority. So then I would maybe take the reload insight or reload focus for the critical hit damage or critical hit rate, as my weapon doesn't currently reach 100% critical hit rate when I have the full stacks. Right now the weapon is only at 27%, so I was thinking maybe I would re-roll my Enduring Legacy to have critical hit rate, but I'm not entirely sure yet. Now, Walk a Tightrope, you can obviously also switch if you don't want to use this, as this requires you to have 50% or lower health. That's why I recommend maybe switching Enlightenment for more health. As for example, if I take off Shot Focus and Enlightenment and put on HP Amplification, you have a total of 16,000, which means when you're half health, you'll still have 8,000 health, which is plenty, as many of my friends that I play with are glass cannons and they don't even have 8,000 health. But as you can see with this build that I currently have, I only have 9,000, which means I'll only have about 4,600. And you don't need Enlightenment to do this either, as it only gives you max MP, which is quite useless as your MP is always full. I did do another tab where I was testing between a lot of different stuff here for like more MP recovery and stuff. This just means that you'll have less survivability and it's kinda not worth it. This is mainly the build I would go with. I would take all of these mods plus some more health and you'd be good to go. Quickly go over the reactors again. Without the skill cost, we have 4.9 per second on the continuous MP cost. But when we have skill cost on, we have only 4.5, which saves us 0.4 max MP per second. This also counts towards the first, which is MP cost 10. We switch it off again. We have MP cost 0.9 extra, so we save an extra 0.9 on that as well. Then for skill cooldown, you want the gold as well, so you want skill cost and skill cooldown. With the cooldown that it's at right now, it's at 3 seconds for the first, but if we have a cooldown on the reactor as well, this allows it to go to 2.4 seconds. So if we go over it again, these are the main mods you really want. Skill cooldown and skill cooldown for your first. Max MP doesn't matter as we'll have max MP all the time anyway. Skill cost and skill cost so that we can have the continuous MP cost very low so that we can have it up all the time and recover faster than losing the MP. The skill power modifier doesn't matter either as we're not using skills. We have increased defense, increased HP for survivability, Walk a Tightrope for the firearm attack, energy collection for MP recovery, shot focus for firearm attack, skill power modifier doesn't matter, we're not using skills, and then for the last slot you'd want some more HP, so stim accelerant or HP amplification. You can also use Hailey's fourth to gain MP back. For a quick example, I'll switch builds. If you don't want to run the specific build that I have, you can use your fourth to gain MP back. So whenever you hit a weak point, you gain 15% back. And when playing against Colossi, you want to use your third and gain your 16 stacks. This will also proc Arche Pacemaker, minus 25% skill cost reduction. And you just want to continuously shoot the boss while spamming your first to gain the stacks. Thanks for watching today's video, hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.